Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Let's have some fighting words. So in this video, I want to talk about Micheal Conlan versus Leigh Wood. Or I should say Leigh Wood versus Micheal Conlan. Leigh Wood was the one who had the belt, the WBA featherweight title. And he retained that belt. This was a great fight from start to finish. It started off really slick, really smart. You can tell Conlan had a game plan. He stayed on the outside. He was picking his shots. But not only that, he was level changing. And Leigh Wood could not get his timing. Leigh Wood could not get where he was targeting. He didn't really know. And because of that, he got clipped off pretty early. It was really smart in Conlan's end. You know, he was patient. He was taking his time. It was interesting to see Micheal Conlan just take a back foot like that, like he knew his place. Leigh Wood does have pretty heavy hands. And, you know, even after the fight, once Conlan was released from the hospital, he was asked about Leigh Wood's hands. And he was like, yeah, they're heavy. He's like, it's not the most power I've ever felt in my life. But he does have heavy hands. And you could tell right away, I mean, when the fight started, Conlan understood where he was going to be, and Leigh understood where he was going to be. Leigh ran, and he took that center stage. He didn't hesitate. It was his, and he went and he owned it. He owned it for the entire fight, actually, even after being knocked down. But I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So like I said, early on, Conlan's boxing well. Keeping the distance, great. Conlan was finding the target early, which was true. Perfect punch just drops him. You know, he clipped him a few times in the head, but it's the one that you don't see. And because Conlan kept level changing and he attacked the body a little bit, but they were more like jabs to the body, just giving Leigh something to think about. So Leigh, like I said, he didn't really know where the shots were aimed at. And because of that, he got clipped and he went down. And it was actually a pretty bad knockdown. I mean, he actually did bounce his head on the canvas. But credit to Leigh Wood for two things. Not only did he get up, but he got up like really fast. And he was coherent. He was ready to go. You know, sometimes you just need, as much as I hate to say it, some people just need a crack to get them going. And, you know, it's never a good thing that you need a crack to get going, but it is what it is. Some people need a crack to get going. And Leigh Wood could very well be one of those people who just needs to get cracked one time, and it's like, oh, it's game time. Let's go. But he got back up on his feet, and I feel like I understand the need to put your foot on the gas. I do. But I felt like Conlan put his foot on the gas too much. Listen, guy, he goes down the way Leigh Wood went down, then he gets back up, and he's still strong enough to stay on his feet, and you're cracking him. Don't smother him. Just back off. You know, like do what you did to get him down initially. You know, and I never felt like Conlan did that. Matter of fact, he didn't do that. You know, he stayed on top of Leigh Wood, which I felt like if he would have gave him some space, he would have saw better shots and better openings, and he would have had much better setups to get that second knockdown and possibly end the fight early. But he didn't do that. He jumped on him, and he stayed on top of him for like the next two rounds. And due to that, you know, he had already closed the distance. Leigh's getting more conscious, and you just close the distance where he'd rather be. He's the heavier puncher. He's the bigger guy. This is where he'd rather be. And he's better close up anyway. So this is where you want to be. Although he's not all there yet, it's still where he's more comfortable. If you could have kept the distance, which it would have been easy for you because he didn't have his legs, he didn't have full and total coordination, it would have been totally easy for you to just pick shots off. And, I mean, he won those following rounds, but it would have been a lot cleaner, and you wouldn't have got hit in the process. Like I said, credit to Leigh Wood. One for getting knocked down, but getting up so quickly and being coherent and ready to rock and roll. But on top of that, being composed. Those next two rounds, he was kind of like a punching bag for Conlan, and he was very, very composed. You know, he tried to cover up as best he could, and he did fire back a lot as well. I feel like if he would have just did a little bit more tying up, he could have got himself back together a lot quickly. But that's just the warrior in the guy, you know. It's like, you're not going to hit me and I'm not going to hit back, you know. Plus, referees, you don't want to run the risk of, like, you already just got knocked down and now you're not responding. You know, you just got your guards up or whatever. So I don't blame him. You got to do what you got to do. Keep the fight going and rolling. Like I said, because Conlan closed the distance, I get it. You're trying to get the guy out of there. I get it. More than half that crowd was there for Conlan. I mean, every time he like blinked his eyes, everybody would scream. So I get it. You want to impress the crowd. You know, the more you impress the crowd, the more you're gonna get in the outcome. Meaning, like, future fights. People want to see you. People are gonna pay to see you. You're gonna make more money. So I get it. You want to impress the crowd. You want to be exciting. But at the same time, don't be reckless if you don't have to be. And I don't feel like Conlan had to be as reckless or had to be in the pocket where he was. He didn't have to be there. He was doing so well on the outside in the early rounds. He showed that he was faster than Leigh Wood. He showed that he was probably a slicker boxer than Leigh Wood. He showed that, you know, he was just a better boxer on the outside than Leigh Wood. So there was no need for him to close that distance. Like I said, I get it. You want to please the crowd, and I get it. He was already knocked down. There's still the possibility of getting the guy out of there. But if he's not going in, like, you know, another 2-3 minutes, and it's now 2-3 rounds down since the knockdown, let it go. Go back to what you were doing. That was smart. He didn't do that, unfortunately. But because of that, he allowed Leigh Wood back into the fight. And with that closed distance, Leigh Wood is stronger anyway. And then they started grappling. So those middle rounds were a lot of wrestling, a lot of grappling. In which case, Leigh Wood was stronger. And he was winning the grappling easily. You know, and to the point where Conlan had to, like, grab his arms and the referee had to break him up. You know, so it's just like, dude, I was screaming at the screen, like, just get your distance. Just go back to your distance. Use your legs. You got better legs than Leigh Wood. Use it. But he didn't do it, you know. And that was due also because Michael Conlan had punched, I feel like he punched himself out a little bit. You know, you spent 3 rounds really trying to get him out of there after you got that knockdown, and it didn't come. And you just loaded up and loaded up and loaded up. And now you got an empty clip. And now you're in survival mode when he should be in survival mode. If you would have stayed on the outside picking him off, you wouldn't have to be in survival mode, you know, because you wouldn't have had to load up on everything. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I mean, it already happened. By the 8th, Leigh had taken control of the fight. I mean, totally. He was in control of the fight. And it was very clear. It was very evident. Yeah, Conlan did have shots, and Conlan had body shots for days. He had uppercuts for days as well. But Leigh had, like, everything. He had straight punches. He had body shots. He had hooks. He had uppercuts. He had everything. He was throwing everything at Conlan. You know, and Conlan would just rush back into Leigh, and I'm like, dude, he's not even walking you down. You're running in there, and you're not getting the success that you want. You have spots. You have good spots where you're doing a little something here and a little something there, but you're not having the same amount of success that you had early. It's one thing if he's walking you down and there's nowhere for you to go, but it's something else if you're volunteering and you're running straight back over to him. And that's what Conlan was doing. And I wish somebody in his corner would have been like, dude, just back off. If he's not going to chase you, back off. Back off, go back to the jab. You have some beautiful uppercuts. Conlan did have some beautiful uppercuts. But if they're not that effective, they're not working, they're not slowing the bigger man down. I mean, he's still walking you down, and he's still pushing you back, and he's still out grappling you. Go back to that jab, go back to your distance. Never happened, though. Never happened. Like I said, Leigh Wood had better. I felt like he just had more of an arsenal of punches, is what I'm saying. Conlan had great body work, but Leigh did as well. And Leigh had great straight punches. You know, like, he was hitting Conlan with everything. He was way more consistent than Conlan. Like I said, Conlan by 8, 9, 10, he had a spot here, he had a spot there. But in terms of consistency, Leigh Wood was wrecking shop. And he was very comfortable with it. You know, and yeah, he would get hit. He would catch one and, you know, like, but because Conlan couldn't follow it up, because the amount that Leigh was dishing out, but also Leigh was right there because, again, distance. Distance, I feel like distance was the downfall of this fight for Conlan. You know, it was a plus for Leigh Wood, and it was a minus for Michael Conlan. By the 11th, it was a slip. So the question was, did Leigh Wood knock down Michael Conlan? I looked at it like, I was actually going to make a video on Sunday, but you know, because I want to look at it some more times, I'm fairly convinced it was just a slip. He did get hit. He got grazed before the slip. But keep in mind, Conlan was already throwing, and Leigh, they kind of threw at the same time. They were throwing flurries. But Leigh did connect. I don't want to say he didn't connect. He definitely connected. But I don't believe that punch was anywhere hard enough to get Conlan off his feet. And because of the way he threw the hook, I don't see how he would have fallen frontward. It wouldn't make sense. So that's why I'm saying it had to be a slip. But nonetheless, you know, it got credited as a knockdown. I mean, the fight was stopped anyways. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, overall, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, that was a knockdown. I don't feel like it was a knockdown. I personally think it was a slip. And then, like, as dramatic as it started, it ended dramatically. Again, I just felt like Conlan ran out of gas. He looked to be in phenomenal shape. But because he spent like 2-3 rounds just loading up on a guy who wasn't going anywhere, you know, that's the thing when it comes to fighting. You have to know when to pull back. You have to know, you have to be able to assess the situation and say, this, it's still in my favor and it's still going my way, but I'm not getting the desired result that I want. I get it, you want to knock him out. I get it, you want to knock out. Why not? I get it, you want to take this belt. Not, you know, let the judges give you the belt. You want to take the belt. Nothing wrong with that. And I respect that from Micheal Conlan. I respect that he was going 100 miles an hour the entire fight. But at the same time, you also have to know when to back off. You listen, it's like round 4, 5. Like, I got 7 more rounds. I can chill for a little bit if I want to. I can just back off a little bit. I can go back to my jab. I can get back in my groove. You know, and I can still have him hurt because I've already seen that I'm faster than him. I've already seen that I can confuse him. So I can go back to these things and I can still keep him in this position. Nothing wrong with that. You know, because if he's not going, you're wasting all your gas and he's only going to get stronger, you know, because he's surviving. He's on survival mode. But once you get tired, your arms are tired. And like I said, at the end of the fight, Micheal Conlan was not only punched out, but his arms were down. And if you look at his defense, what he was doing on the ropes early, when he tried that again, and he's trying to shell up, it wasn't even a tight shell. And Leigh even said in the back of the stadium, I'm assuming, in the dressing room, he said, well, earlier he had a tighter defense, but by the time that round came, round 12, when I knocked him out, that defense was so open. He said I could literally see through his defense. And that's what I mean. So, like, again, if there would have been the distance and he would have kept the distance, I don't believe that knockdown would have happened. But then again, if he would have kept that distance, I believe he could have got Leigh Wood out of there. Because he could have kept him buzzed for like a good portion of the fight and then finally dropped that bomb again. But credit to both of them. Credit to Micheal Conlan just for being okay and being healthy. I did see a post-interview where he was out of the hospital and he was actually on his way to a restaurant with his family. So I'm happy to hear that he's well. He even mentioned a rematch. I would love to see a rematch. I think this fight deserves a rematch. I mean, it went all the way to the 12th round. But not only that, this fight could have been so much different. And it was just a teeny little adjustment. I just think it's an adjustment of distance. I think it's an adjustment of boxing as opposed to fighting inward, because Conlan literally chose to do that. That was his decision. It wasn't like Leigh Wood put so much pressure on him that Conlan had to do that to fight him off. No, Leigh Wood was hurt. Conlan trying to get him out of there. He tried too long to get him out of there, ends up staying there too long. Leigh Wood gets back into the fight. Conlan is tired now, and now the roles are reversed. And now you're stuck in a position you don't want to be. That's what happened. So does this fight deserve a rematch? Absolutely. Would I love to see a rematch? Absolutely. I think it's a good fight. And, you know, Leigh Wood was asked also about a rematch. He didn't seem too poised about it. But Conlan was like, we can make more money if he fights me again. So we'll just have to wait and see. Overall, like I said, I was very, very impressed with this fight and this fight card in general. But yeah, so that's all I have for this video. That's my fight recap for Leigh Wood versus Micheal Conlan. Drop your comments down below. Tell me what you thought about the fight. Tell me if you think it was just simply, a thing of distance. I personally believe that it was, but I want to know your thoughts. Drop your comments down below, and as always, please like, please share, and please subscribe to my channel.